In the last episode, we opened a door that most people never even notice. The difference between how you see yourself and how the system sees you. Today we're taking the next logical step, because once you know there's a legal person, the obvious question becomes, so who am I in all of this? This episode is where that answer starts to take shape. Not in theory, not in complicated language, but in a way that makes sense of everyday life. I'm Nikita, and you're watching Everything's Connected. Let's separate. Clearly, the two identities you've been carrying your whole life without realizing it. You have lived your whole life with a living identity, the woman or man you actually are, a legal identity, the person the system interacts with, and the moment you see this clearly, your entire experience of modern life becomes easier to navigate. The living identity feels, thinks, grows, learns, changes, adapts, and makes choices. The legal identity functions, registers, signs, pays, receives, complies, and holds liability. They are not enemies, they are simply different layers. The problem is that no one teaches you the difference. So most people spend their whole life switching between them without knowing they've switched at all. Let's start with the simplest identity, the living woman or man. This identity is unregistered, unowned, unlicensed, not created by the state, not defined by an office, not part of any system by default, and not subject to administrative rules unless you choose to step into them. You, as a living being, have intuition, autonomy, private thought, conscience, inherent authority, natural rights, the ability to disengage, the ability to refuse, and the ability to remain private. This version of you does not exist on paper. It exists in reality. You woke up into this world with it, and nothing created by an institution can override it unless you agree, knowingly or unknowingly, to step into a different identity. Now let's contrast that with the legal person. The person is not born. It is created. It is an administrative identity, a system-managed role, a record used to process obligations. It exists for one purpose: to interact with government, banks, corporations and authorities in a structured, predictable, enforceable way. The person has a date of birth, has a name format, has a national identity number, exists in databases, can hold bank accounts, can receive fines, can be penalised, can be taxed, can be licensed, and can be charged. Notice the pattern. Everything that involves rules, requirements, or responsibilities is addressed to the person, not the living being. And this is where confusion begins. People think the system is talking to them. It's actually talking to the role. Here's the moment most people never see. The everyday moment where the living being slips into the person. It happens when you sign anything, fill out a form, register for something, provide a legal name, use a title, give an address in postal format, accept a benefit, acknowledge a letter written to the person, pay a bill, and respond to an official demand. Each of these actions is interpreted administratively as the living being voluntarily stepping into the person's role. It's not malicious. It's simply how the structure works. The system cannot recognise a living woman or man. It only recognises behaviour that activates the legal identity. Think of it like logging into an account. The moment you sign, register, apply or respond, you log into the person, and the system treats the logged-in identity as the one responsible. You may have wondered at some point, why does the system ignore my personal situation? Why does it not take my circumstances or emotions into account? Why does it feel so robotic? The reason is simple. The system interacts with the person, not the individual realities of the living being. The person has no emotions, no context, no background, no circumstances. It is a fixed identity, a role, a data profile. So the system behaves consistently because It is not talking to a human being, it is talking to a record. This is the moment the penny drops for most people. Once you see this, the coldness of administration finally makes sense. This is where your sovereignty journey truly begins, because when you know there are two identities, you can start choosing intentionally when to act as the person, when to act as the living woman or man, when to engage, when to remain private, when to sign, when not to sign, when to connect to the system, and when to stay completely out of it. Most people have spent their entire life switching roles unconsciously, and unconscious behaviour always leads to confusion. Clarity comes from knowing. You are the living being. The person is a functional tool. You can move between them deliberately. This is the foundation of real sovereignty. Not rebellion, not argument, not magic words, but understanding identity at the deepest level. The first shift isn't paperwork, it isn't remedy, it isn't notices, it is this. Stop assuming you and the person are the same thing. Once you see the difference, your interactions with systems stop feeling personal and start feeling procedural. And from that moment on, you stop panicking to letters, you stop reacting emotionally, you stop taking demands as personal threats, you start making conscious decisions, and you begin understanding the structure. This is the moment where fear dissolves and clarity replaces it. Now that you know the difference between the living woman/man and the legal person, the next question becomes, which world does the person actually operate in, and which world do you operate in? In episode 3, we explore the two jurisdictions you move through every day, land and sea, and why the system treats the person differently depending on which one you're in. I'm Nikita, and you've been watching Everything's Connected.